Welcome to It's Time, an in-depth look at understanding the importance of succession planning for your automotive business. It's Time is presented by Standard. Now, here's your host, Doug Kaufman.
You're in a great car on a great day, cruising down the highway, enjoying magnificent scenery. Eventually, you start getting hungry or tired or just running low on gas. It's time to start looking for an exit ramp. If you play your cards right, they'll be there when you need it, with all the resources you need to make the next stage of your journey enjoyable. If you wait too long, well, you might find yourself in a bit of an emergency. Likewise, when you're considering what happens next in your career, waiting too long can be a real problem. In this series, we're going to discuss the timing of succession planning. Whether you're nearing retirement or have decades left, there's no time like the present to begin forming your exit strategy. Knowing well in advance what it is you plan to do with your business when you retire will help you get the business in top shape to garner a high selling price, as well as minimize the tax impact of passing the shop to family members. It also ensures you're prepared in the event of an emergency of any kind, should one unfortunately arise. Hi everyone, I'm Doug Kaufman with Shop Owner Magazine. According to a recent survey, nearly 80% of small business owners intend to sell their operations to fund their retirement, yet less than a third actually have a plan in place. I'd like to welcome my guest for this episode of It's Time, Vic Tarasic, to shed some light on whether this equation actually adds up. Vic, welcome, and those numbers don't seem to work too well.
No, first off, Doug, thank you for having me here. And you're right; those numbers don't work well when only 1/3 are planning. I would think that number is overestimated.
Really?
Yeah, really, because you think about it when you're young and spry. I've said it myself. I'm never going to retire. Why should I retire?
Yeah.
At that point in your life, you're not looking to go miles down the road. What you're looking at is, I got my whole life ahead of me.
Yeah. Your career just started. You're looking to get through that week, to get through that month, to make that next several paychecks.
Yeah.
When is it time to start thinking about succession planning?
It might sound a little too early, but the day you open your shop, that's when you should start planning. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but you think about it. We start our work day. We know when we're going to leave. We know when lunch is. But how many, we don't think years from now, because we've got our whole life ahead of us. But you think about it, the early bird gets the worm. You look at planning 10, 15, 20, maybe even 40 years down the road, and you can set a pretty darn good plan in place.
Yeah. And really, we're not guaranteed that we've got 20, 30, 40 years ahead of us. So
No.
Let's talk about succession planning, kind of an overview, high-level overview. What is it? What does it mean? And why is it crucial for small businesses and especially for auto shops?
Well, what is it? You think about the term itself, succession plan. You're planning for success.
Mm-hmm.
You are taking control of your future. And the way you take control of it is to break it down into simple, small steps. Honestly, it's just like repairing a car. For shop owners who came up in the technician ranks, they know how to take a car apart. They know how to put it back together. They understand process. So a strong succession plan has several good components in place. When, how much you're going to need that way down the road, and then you just begin to enact it in place.
Got it. So for auto shops, what kinds of steps should you be putting into place from the beginning? How do you get started? Even back the day you open your business, what should you start thinking about?
I guess the first thing is, when do I want to retire? Best way I can illustrate this is with a young gentleman I had just met. I say young, he's in his 30s, and he was helping me move something at my shop, and he'd just get ready to start a shop, and I just started coaching, and so I'm highly passionate about helping these guys who are young get started off on the right foot. So I asked Mario. I said, Mario, you're getting started. When do you want to retire? He looked at me and he's like, why are you asking me that? He goes, I haven't even opened my door. And I'm like, I backed up. I said, okay, let me ask you this question. At 60 years old, do you see yourself working on a vehicle? He goes, well, not really. I go, so you're like, what, 30 years down the road? He's like, yeah. And I said, okay, with that, how much money do you want to have? Well, I don't know. And so a lot of things become very nebulous. And what happens is when things are nebulous, we don't go in that direction. But all you've got to do is start looking at what point do I want to retire, and what does my life look like then, and what do I need financially? I say statistically, if you're going to retire with, let me back up. If you're going to have $100,000 coming out into you from your shop every year, and you want to retire with that same level of pay, you need to have, as of today, $2.5 million when you retire to have the same lifestyle. And you need to have $2.5 million in your retirement fund to have a successful retirement. It takes a long time investing money over the years, but it's that number, while it might seem extremely high, it's really not when you use the miracle of compound interest over the years.
Are there concerns that you can think of, or you've been told from people who figure, hey, if you're only looking at retiring from the business, you're not putting the effort into making sure your business is as good today as it can be?
I think that could be an opportunity for that, because most people don't get it. But what the owner is doing is he's planning for his success, which means that the people that are either the critics who are on, that work for him or around him are being overly critical, because what he wants is a successful future. To think that person is not working on the business is actually totally counterintuitive, because if they're looking at a retirement at 60 years old, 30 years from now, they're putting sound planning into place that's going to create a successful entity sooner rather than later. Right now, shop owners that are younger, they're in their 30s, they're reaping the benefits of this previous generation of shop owners who's gone before us, because those shop owners did not plan, and now they're reaching the zenith of their career, and they're selling their businesses for pennies on the dollar because they're not worth anything. And you see these younger guys coming in with 3, 4, 5, 6 stores in a matter of years. And that's unfortunate, but that poor planning put that person in that particular position. And somebody was just there to take up advantage of that opportunity. Unfortunately for the shop owner who's leaving his career, and he's leaving a great opportunity for the new owners. And those new owners are doing great when they bring these businesses into their fold. I know a number of young shop owners who've done this, and they're planning their careers, long range plans.
And that's a great point. That 80% of businesses that plan to sell, yet they haven't invested at this point in the career. So the shop has outdated equipment, outdated technology, underskilled teammates, perhaps, not perhaps the best customer base. They're not going to get what they think, certainly what they've put into the business over the years, just because of the cost of doing business. Right. They're unlikely to get that back.
No, and he'll never get it back. And there's kind of a common theology that most shop owners who leave the industry today want $1 million, but the numbers don't justify. Mm-hmm. Most shops aren't even worth the customer base that are there. The equipment is worth 10 cents on the dollar when they sell that shop. If they've got $150,000 as an equipment, it's only worth $15,000, and most of it's going to probably be scrapped anyway.
Inside each standard box, you'll find research and development, precision manufacturing, lab testing and validation, on-vehicle testing, technical training and support. What's in your box?
Success and successors sort of follow hand in hand. How do business owners find potential successors in within their organization, not to close the business and sell the business and liquidate the business, but to continue so that the industry has a strong base of shops that will continue the work that we all have been trying to do for these many years?
Well, identification of successor starts with an eagerness. Do they understand the business? Do they get it? Do they want to be an owner? If it doesn't matter whether you want them to have the business or not, but if they do, they want to be the owner. If they do, well, then the next step is to invest in them into some training, management training, financial training, marketing training. Because as you're investing in them and their skills, what's going to happen is they're going to become more eager to take the business over and turning to be able to sell more to them. Now, this could be a family member. It could be a non-family member. I know a number of shop owners who have ended up coming in as the guy sweeping the floor, who just gradually grew into the business, and they eventually took the business over. And they didn't just take the business over; they actually purchased the business. They had a buy-sell agreement between the owner and this person that started out as a floor sweeper.
Yeah, you don't necessarily know who's going to be that next owner of the business or the next
No.
perfect person for your shop.
No, you don't. It could surprise you. It might be a nephew. It might be a niece. It might be a cousin. One of our coaches, he sold his business to a nephew, and this nephew worked in the business. And when Randy, wanted to step away from the business, he sold internally, and he still has the business. Randy's moved on, and now he's coaching with us. And Tyson, he's thriving at the business now.
And I know a lot of shop owners who have family members. They have sons, they have daughters, and their kids aren't necessarily wanting to take the shop over. They want the owner wants it to continue, but they recognize that their kids aren't that interested in it. So they've got to find the next generation, because they certainly have been doing a good job. They don't want the operation to struggle when they leave. And so that's got to be a challenge to find the people, whether within your shop or outside, to find the right people to step in.
Well, and you're right, because finding the right person that fits your culture is huge, because your customers have come to rely on you, your community's come to rely on you, and what you've got to do is you've got to find someone who has similar belief set that you do. But they're out there in almost all cases. Part of that requires you to get outside your four walls, get to know the people that are in your industry that are maybe could be at another shop that you potentially bring in to eventually take the business over. It doesn't always have to be a family member. In many cases, it won't be. Now, onto the family member, though, you may have a son or daughter who may at the time may not want to take the business over. But in a lot of cases, what happens is they leave, they go to college, and then they start taking an interest in the business. And I've seen this. They've come back and they've actually created the next level of succession plan for the shop owner to then sell it to his son or daughter.
What are some of the key components of a robust succession plan that shop owners can maybe start putting into their mind, whether it's a solid checklist, got to do this, got to do this, got to do this, got to do this, or just kind of big picture ideas? What are some of the things that make up a solid succession plan?
Well, kind of a big picture overview. What does life look like after the shop life? Let's say maybe not the when, but the what afterwards. Are you going to veg on a couch and watch TV all day? Are you going to go golfing all the time? Are you going to become vital in the industry? When I sold my shop, I then became a teacher and a coach.
Mhm.
So kind of what's next? And I'm kind of run off my bullet points. Then target a time frame. What are my financial needs? What do I think they might be? Because you need to know what those are to then start to set up what's the shop value going to be. Sound financials. I cannot underscore this one enough. A shop with sound financials, and what that means is audited financial statements. So in order to get the most value out of your shop, whether it's an internal or an external sale, having sound financials in place, and as you get close to the actual succession and selling the business, having 3 years of sound financial statements, audited financial statements. Then part of it would determine the type of sale, identification of the person, and when you want to retire and step away from the business. There's two things. Start the plan about 10 years before your last day.
Mm.
And then the second one is, in order to let that person grow the business their own way, having that next stage in your life in place so you're not consistently hanging around the shop and inhibiting their growth. So you're exiting the business. Succession doesn't mean hang around all the time. Succession means leave, sell the business, leave, and then start your new chapter in your own life. Turn the page, close the book, and then open another book and start from page one.
That financial point that you made, having 3 years of audited financial statements, you can't rush that at the end. You've got to make sure that you've started that, as you said, well before the time is you're going to start stepping away from the business.
Yeah, you cannot. It requires a minimum of 3 years.
So the key, of course, is to put that next generation into a position to also succeed.
Correct. And I agree with that, because your job in succession plan is to ensure that the last person you hand this off to, it's kind of like running a relay. When they hand the baton off in a race, they hand it off at just the right time, and they got to get that person up to speed, and then the baton gets handed off, and he cheers them on. And so you owe it to your community, you owe it to your employees, you owe it to your customers to ensure that that business remains successful, and that's setting up the next person in your business to be the best they can be.
When the OE part fails, count on the brand with world-class engineering, precision manufacturing, and more than 100 years of experience. When OE fails, trust Standard. What's in your box?
Are there differences in what's required for succession planning with bringing an outside person into the shop rather than having a next generation family member, whether it's a son or a daughter or a cousin or a grandchild or something like that?
Right. Well, and there are some subtle differences. On an external sale, somebody's got to come in with a hefty down payment. On an internal sale, if the person is identified early enough in the business, they can build sweat equity so that when you're going to sell the business, they've already got the down payment. There's ways to structure it, and we could get deep into this, and I don't want to. I just want to stay high level on this. But having somebody that you have identified, they can bank money away in whatever financial instrument that you have, so that when you walk out the door, you're not self-funding the business. Part of being successful in a succession plan is putting them in place to be able to secure a loan so that you can walk away without having to fund the business, because you do not want to be tied to that business when you walk away, because what's going to happen is the potential for default, to get sucked right back in from retirement. And now it becomes a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Then you become a landlord and you have to wait for that. You're relying on that monthly check to come in. And if they're not planning their own future, those checks may not be coming in as you hope they will.
True. And you know what? You said something about landlord. I think it's good to be a landlord. I encourage shop owners, when you have the dirt, sell the business, don't sell the dirt. Yeah, and that dirt can provide consistent, ongoing income. The sell the business, lock, stock, and barrel, close the deal, collect the cash, but take the rent payments.
Yeah.
And from the way the taxes are set up, it's decent income. It's not ordinary income. It's rental income, taxed differently.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What kind of training is out there for shop owners who are looking to start grooming their team?
Oh gosh, well, all the biggie conferences, AST, ATE, Vision, Apex, all have strong management tracks. So I would encourage a shop owner who's identified somebody to not just send somebody to these conferences, but to help select what the best classes are, because there's some really good classes. In fact, there's some on succession planning that are at these conferences, and not just to send them to it, but attend them with them.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're there to partner with the person, because truthfully, the more successful they are with getting it, the more successful it is enacting your succession plan.
Right. And we will be getting into, over the course of this series, the It's Time series on succession planning. We'll be getting into legal implications, tax implications, financial, cultivating leaderships, all of these different topics. And we really hope that you'll stick around. Send us questions if you have them, but be ready to have this dialogue with us at Shop Owner Magazine and our sponsors regarding the next stage of your journey down that highway of business. On behalf of all of us here, I would like to thank my guest, Vic Tarasic, the Shop Owner Coach. Vic, thanks for sharing a little bit of time with us today. And any other thoughts you can offer to that person who may be feeling, I may be too late? We talked about, is it too early? Is it too late?
No, it's never too late. It's never, I was going to kind of rhyme it. It's never too late to start today.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you're young, whether you're advanced in your career or early on in the career, it's never too late to start. It's never too late. It's never too early. And I'd rather you start today than wait till tomorrow.
Great. On behalf of all of us again, thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon on It's Time. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for watching. For more information on succession planning, visit shopownermag.com. There, you'll find resources and links designed to help guide you on the road ahead. Learn more about our sponsor, Standard, by visiting standardbrand.com.